ਚੱਕਦੇ ਟੀਵੀ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਰਮਿੰਦਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ-ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਪੱਕਦੀਆਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਤੋਂ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਰੋਜ਼ਮੇਰੀ ਕੈਨਨ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਲੋਕਲ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਰੋਜ਼ਮੇਰੀ ਕੈਨਨ ਜੀ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਆਓ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਰੋਜ਼ਮੇਰੀ, I really want to welcome to your studios and would like to thank you for coming here and taking time out for us.
Thank you very much, Parminder, and I very much appreciate you and Chakti TV for inviting me here today. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself.
Sure.
I'm a retired teacher and school principal and have worked for many years in schools in Brampton Centre. Got to know many, many families, and I do see the challenges that people are facing more and more, particularly in terms of affordability of everything. And I know that my work as a volunteer with Peel Poverty Action Group and Peel Poverty Reduction Strategy has opened my eyes further. We do have a situation where 40 to 45% of our neighborhoods here in Brampton are low to very low income. And there are reasons for that. It shouldn't happen in a country as wealthy as Canada and a community that has as many opportunities as Brampton. So I want to address those issues. I've met many stakeholders and worked with people at the city, at the region of Peel, and at the poverty reduction strategy. That's why I'm running as an NDP candidate.
Well, you said you were a teacher and a retired principal. So do you think the local issues, especially the ones that are going on right now with the provincial teacher union, would that be an issue that federal government need to address too?
The federal government has to be a partner with the provinces in providing the right supports for education. When there are issues at the local level and the provincial level, the most important thing is for the province to be a collaborative partner with parents and with schools and school boards. Unfortunately, the recent issue with the Liberal government in Ontario, the Liberal government was imposing an agenda on families and on people, which fortunately, parents stood up against and have raised their voices. The most important thing, as I had mentioned already, is collaboration, and Tom Mulcair and the NDP has that approach to all situations, that we will be a collaborative leader and working with the provinces. One thing I should mention, Parminder, over 20 to 30 years, the Liberal and Conservative governments have made huge cuts to education, healthcare, community services, infrastructure. The responsibilities for many of these things have been downloaded to cities and provinces, 80%, with only 8% of federal funding coming forward to support those services. So we do have to look at the fact that our federal needs to be a partner at the table, not impose its agenda, but certainly make sure that we allocate funding fairly to our local communities.
Even today also, we have seen there's a news regarding the teachers being on strike for not getting paid well, or some of their issues not being addressed. So do you think those issues can also be resolved?
They certainly can be resolved, Parminder, and again it's the collaborative working between the federal and the provincial. Teachers have had their salaries frozen for a number of years now. They are a strong union. I was actually a member of my own unit, my union unit, when I was a teacher, and we worked for a living wage. We worked for a fair work day. We worked with our board to make sure that people got their regular breaks. We worked with our board to make sure that students' needs were supported, in that there were enough teachers allocated in each school. So the unions and the teachers union that I was involved in have established so many good working principles. We need to protect those. We need all workers to be included in a bargaining unit where they can look toward fair wage, good treatment for their workers, and make sure that they can do their job responsibly.
Well, federally right now, if we look at the polls, I know they are disturbing. Is that a concern to you?
The polls they go up and down, and we've had a lot of twists and turns in this election period. It's been a very long election period. So I glance at the polls, but I don't put my full stock in the polls. What I do put my stock in is the conversations I'm having with people at the local level, at the door. People are wanting us to improve their situation. We want good jobs locally here in Brampton. We want our young people to have opportunities when they graduate. For example, now recently, the NDP in Tomocare has announced that we have a plan to create 40,000 job opportunities for youth across the country. Over 60,000 fewer jobs for youth today under Stephen Harper. So we need to change that. Our plan will be to connect 40,000 youth with non-governmental agencies and private sector opportunities, and create good jobs and give young people experience and advanced skills to get working and stay working. I'd like to give you a local example of that.
Yeah, sure.
I recently was talking with a man named Simon, who runs a successful automotive industry, automotive business here locally. And he is a man that was a newcomer to the country way back in the 70s. He was one of the Vietnamese boat people. And he established himself here through hard work and dedication. And he is now, of his own accord, offering opportunities to young people, 14, 15, 16 years of age, to come to his business and learn the trade, those that are interested. We have other opportunities here in Brampton with Sheridan College. We want to bring a university. We're growing our medical sector with the new wellness center. All of these should be a major focus, a major component of all of these should be how can we provide opportunities to our youth to get involved, to be out in the workplace, to learn the trade that they're interested in.
There's no doubt about the policies, the NDP policies, but the thing is, I'm coming back to the polls. When the elections were announced, NDP was #1, but right now, if we look at the polls right now, NDP has fallen back to #3. And the recent, the previous actually, the previous debate we had in Quebec, so there was a lot of concern about the niqab issue. Do you think NDP has played a vital role? But on the other hand, NDP has got their own votes by supporting whatever the court ruling is.
Well, I think that's the key, Parminder, is that the NDP and Tomocare are recognizing the importance of the courts in this issue and following their guidelines. The niqab issue is one that can be taken by other parties and used as a wedge issue. And we are more focused on what are the ways that we can work together, what are the issues that we are concerned about together. And for the most part, it is every family is in the country wants to support their young people and make sure they have those opportunities. Now, the niqab issue is one that I think we need to make sure that we are treating people with respect. Certainly, if a woman's choice is to wear a certain form of clothing, why should we be making decisions for a woman in terms of the clothing she wears? We have a whole variety of cultural choices in terms of clothing, and we need to be very, very respectful. Do we need to have an immigration policy where people's identity is clearly recognized and realized? Yes, we do, and there's a procedure for that. So the niqab issue is really not an issue at all, and it's certainly not one of the most important issues that we're dealing with, I believe.
But if we look at the polls after the debate, they have fallen drastically. So, and on top of that, around 82% of, I think, people have voted that niqab should be banned in the citizenship ceremonies. Do you think that if NDP supports the court orders and does not appeal against it, so their votes would still fall down?
You know, the votes will sway back and forth, and we still have another 20 days to go, and
Yes.
I'm sure there will be other topics that will sway the masses one way or the other. But you know what? it's about looking at ways we work together rather than focusing on politics of fear and division. I think a lot of the reaction to the issue of the niqab is fear and perhaps not really being fully informed. I think at all levels, if we treat each other with a level of respect and we build a society and community where everyone is included, and that we recognize we have differences in the way we live, in our beliefs, and respect those differences. We're focused in the NDP very much on collaboration, on finding ways of diplomacy, combining that, yes, with security forces and so on, but we really need to not allow us to be distracted. I mean, the big issue for us in this election is the economy. Every family in Brampton Centre is suffering as a result of loss of jobs in our communities and the affordability of things and the lack of opportunities for young people and working families. I'd like to give you an example of an investment which we need to make that's going to support all families, all working families, and that is the long-term affordable child care plan. I know people have heard about this for a long time, but I just want to stress that this is not a tax grab by any means. This is an investment. It's not a one-time benefit or giveaway. It is an investment long-term. If we invest in no more than $15 a day affordable childcare, that allows both parents to pursue their careers. We have to move into the 21st century with this. Both parents pursue their careers, earn a decent wage, they can purchase the goods and services they need for their family. They generate tax revenues, which goes into government infrastructure and services. They are not dependent upon the government in any way, and it raises the level of their income and cuts the poverty level in half, ensures that their children have a great start in life. That's what we want to see moving forward for all of our families.
If we're talking about the child care, $15 child care, daycare, the concern here is the provincial governments need to be a part of that. And do you think that the provincial governments will be willing to support this? And on top of that, how much time would that take to actually implement this program?
Yes, so it certainly would take a number of years, and the provincial governments, you're absolutely right, need to be on board. Again, we don't impose our agenda because the demands are going to vary from province to province. What we do at the federal level is we take on the leadership of setting the bar and moving towards an affordable, long-term affordable child care plan. We have reputable institutions at the provincial level, such as the Ontario Coalition for Better Child Care. We have right here in our own community, we have Sheridan College. I'm actually a graduate of the Early Childhood Education program at Sheridan College, very highly recognized program with great instructors. So I see from all angles the importance of this plan, that it's a long-term economic plan, that other countries who have moved into the 21st century have a long-term plan in place, and we need to do this for our local families here as well.
So if we think practically, is it possible?
Yes, absolutely. In Quebec, it had been instituted in the late 90s, and it had the effect of allowing 70,000 women, mostly women, because most of it's usually the woman, but sometimes the man who has to stay home because of affordability. It allowed 70,000 women over 10 years to enter the workforce, to earn a decent wage, and it actually did cut the poverty level in half in that province. Now, does it need to be well regulated? Of course it does. I'm hearing things about, maybe some people who don't need this plan are exploiting the situation. Certainly, we need to have the plan well regulated and make sure that it's there to support all families who need it.
Okay, talking about the bill C-24, we had seen a recent implementation of this bill. 4 of the convicted terrorists, they have been ripped off from their citizenship. So do you think that whatever NDP has planned for this bill, is that enough, or you want to add something more to it?
Well, that's a very frightening situation when a person can have their citizenship removed in such a way. And the thing is, it's not being done at a, if there are situations that need to be addressed, whether it's security issues or criminal issues, it needs to be done through the federal courts. We have reputable, responsible, accountable agencies in place to do that. The way that Bill C-24 is coming across, it's being dealt with by immigration officials. It needs to follow through the courts when there is a situation, and situations are all different. They need to be dealt with in a fair manner, in a just manner, and through the courts. And that is the NDP position on Bill C-24. We do believe it was a divisive and negative piece of legislation. And like so many pieces of legislation coming from this government, it was not fully done in full consultation with the experts, the legal agencies that needed to be involved in that kind of a consultation. So Bill C-24 is a very destructive and divisive piece of legislation. We need to look at that, and if we need to repeal it or change it, the NDP government wants to make sure that happens. And the other one, of course, is Bill C-51. That was a totally unnecessary piece of legislation that has created again a politics of fear and division and pitted communities against one another. We have 16, 17, 18 strong security agencies in place in Ottawa. Do we need to have them coordinated a bit better? Yes, we do. But Bill C-51 and that kind of an omnibus bill that was forced through at the federal level should not have happened. It was unnecessary and very destructive, and Tom Mulcair and the NDP have committed to repealing that bill for sure.
So do you want to say that by repealing this bill, you will be putting Canadians at danger?
Not at all. No, we have a very strong Canadian Armed Forces, and even former General Hillier of the Armed Forces has pointed out we need to stop being afraid of our own shadow. This was less about security and more about pitting groups against each other. That's what I believe Bill C-51 was about.
So, but on the other hand, if we talk about Canadians, the polls we have seen, and if we talk about the views of the Canadians, they say that they want something like this, but not to that extreme level. Would you be just follow the Liberal policies of just making some changes to this bill?
No, I think this bill has done a lot of damage in being put forward, and I think we need to get rid of it entirely. If we're going to look at security issues, we need to start from scratch and make sure we have all the reputable federal legal agencies involved in the process. Amnesty International has pointed out the failure of this bill and the destructiveness of this bill. And in terms of security too, we have to make sure that we are aligning with our NATO allies and with United Nations. Security is not just about aggression and bombing and army tactics. It's all about having a multi-pronged approach, and much of it has to do with diplomacy in the regions where there is conflict. The NDP is focused on how do we bring peace here at home and to other regions.
But if we talk about ISIS, especially in Iraq and Syria, so Tom Mulcair said we'll just call our forces back. So would that solve the problem?
Well, we call our forces back because they're not actually in line with NATO policies and United Nations policies for that region. We have international stakeholders, and we have countries in the region with standing armies. We need to collaborate with the forces that are in place. We need to collaborate with our NATO agencies. Yes, we do need to get rid of ISIS. There is absolutely no doubt about that. And we need to work with European countries, countries in the Middle Eastern region, and our NATO allies and the United Nations. And be a partner, be a collaborator in how we move forward.
But the thing is, they have already been working with the European countries. European forces are there. France already announced a few days ago that they have started bombing in Syria. So they already have the involvement in that region. But is a military action, if we talk about Canada's or NDP's view, military action is required in that region. So
Yes, yes.
how can we solve the issue without a military action?
Yes, no, I agree with you. Military action is required, and again, we must align ourselves with the NATO forces and United Nations moves on that. And it can't just be military action. It has to be military action and diplomacy.
But the thing is, again, my question is, NDP's Tom Mulcair, he said that we will call our forces back. So if there is no solution without the military forces, how can we have a solution?
We can have a solution with the military forces and diplomacy, but calling Tom Mulcair is calling our troops back from the area where the action was not sanctioned by our NATO partners.
Okay.
That's the focus. We need to work with our NATO partners, not just alone.
Okay, yeah. But the thing is, no, America is there. There is not direct involvement of NATO, but few of the coalition, they have formed a coalition that is coordinating with each other to act against ISIS.
Well, there's no doubt about it. We have to get rid of ISIS. There's no doubt about that. And do we need to work strategically, militarily? Yes, we do. But again, we need to work, I'm repeating it over and over, we need to work with our NATO allies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talking about another issue of Syrian refugee crisis that we are facing right now. So NDP said we'll bring in 20,000, Liberal said we'll bring in 20,000 Syrian refugees, and what's the stand for NDP?
Well, certainly the NDP, as you recall, was the first party to come forward with a clear plan to support the Syrian refugees. Yes, we have to be right in there up front. Our Canadian policy for refugees has deteriorated. I think under the Liberals we fell to about 35th on the world stage in terms of how we support refugees. With the Conservatives, we fell to about 68th in terms of how well we support refugees. We need newcomers in Canada, as well as the fact that we have to support the refugees in their period of crisis and make sure they're safe. We need young families, and I know these are young families, many of them who want to come and make a peaceful life for their family here in Canada, want to contribute to the Canadian economy, want to be active Canadian citizens down the road. So the immediate issue is to mobilize our immigration officials, get them on the ground, fast-track the Syrian refugees, get them here to Canada, help them get reestablished. Our Canadian citizenry has shamed our government into addressing this issue. It has been too long. This has gone on for 5 years. We should have been up front in supporting Syrian refugees much earlier on and in working on bringing diplomatic solutions to that region. So yes, it's all about supporting good people who want to come to Canada, and the Syrian refugees in their moment of crisis. Again, General Hillier has explained how we did that with the Vietnamese refugees at that time. So
you talked about the fast tracking of the Syrian refugee crisis, or the accepting of the refugees in particular. If we fast track the applications, do you think that there might be a security concern in that?
I don't believe it would be a high-level security concern. The issue is this. We bring people out of harm's way, fast-track that part of the process. There's a whole process here in Canada where we go through security and identity checks and so on and so forth. So we've got two strong points. When we get the Syrian refugees here, they're out of harm's way, and we have the time then to deal with any security issues. Secondly, people who are coming here will point out to us, well, that person is not a reputable person, you need to watch for him, he's a criminal, that kind of thing. So we have the refugees themselves who want to establish a better life here, and we have our really skilled armed forces security measures that we employ here when people arrive.
Okay, I think we have discussed many issues. So if we talk about the local issues, you have already mentioned that you want to address the employment crisis or the loss of employment in the local region. So apart from that, is there any other local issues you want to address?
Yes, I'd just like to say that we have a great opportunity in Brampton Centre we have so many empty warehouses, we have huge manufacturing acreage, we have a possibility to generate good jobs here, and the NDP is focusing on investment into the automotive sector, aerodynamics, certainly medical and health fields. The concept or the idea of a university in Brampton would generate a lot of good jobs and research and development innovation for the 21st century. And the other part of that is diversifying our energy sector. So we know that putting all our eggs in the basket of fossil fuels and the oil sands was not a smart move. We need to diversify. We need to transition away from fossil fuel-based energies into a whole raft of alternate green energies. And in Ontario particularly, and in Brampton, we have the opportunity to really be involved in that. We can partner with Quebec around hydro. We can partner with our First Nations around wind or solar. We already have good examples happening here in the ground where we've got small businesses doing solar and various other technologies. And that's the other aspect of boosting our economy and creating jobs is we need to support our small businesses. I mentioned the example of Simon, who takes on of his own accord young people to learn the business. We need to support small businesses and our educational institutions in creating those job opportunities for young people. Young people need to graduate with hope for their future and hope for our future, because we depend upon those young people as time goes forward.
Talking about the foreign policy, and apart from that, we have another issue of immigration. You are a candidate from Brampton Centre, and there's a diverse community of immigrants in that particular community. So do you think that the immigration policies that are presented by the Conservative is enough, or you need to do more on that?
I think we need to make a lot of improvements, Parminder, to our immigration policy. Over the last 10 years, the Conservatives have focused on bringing in 3 times as many temporary foreign workers, and at the same time they have slashed the family reunification program. Now that began with the Liberals. They were the ones that opened up the temporary foreign workers program. We used to have temporary foreign workers for certain sectors, such as agriculture, but the Liberals opened it up to many more coming in. I think we need to support temporary foreign workers who want to apply for permanent residence here in Canada, and we need to support them through the process. But consider the situation when we have so many temporary foreign workers, they are separated from their families. And that's creating a very vulnerable workforce, an unstable workforce here in Canada, workers who can be exploited. And in fact, many of them are working for very low wages and do not have the full range of worker supports while they're here. So it's unfair to our own citizens and those who are trying to achieve citizenship, and it's also unfair to the temporary foreign workers themselves. We do need to change that immigration policy so it's more focused on working families. We need newcomers to Canada. We need young working families. We have a growing seniors demographic. The population increase here in Canada for young families is not as high as it should be and as it has been in the past, because it's unaffordable to have more than 2, 3, 4 children. So we're going to need, as time goes on, we're going to need those young families and those young people to constitute a wonderful workforce, a strong workforce here in Canada. And the immigration policy is one we definitely need to change to support working families.
Well, thanks a lot, Ms. Rosemary. We'd like to wish you luck in the election campaign. And before we leave, what would be the message you want to give to your voters and our viewers?
Well, I just want to say we've got a wonderful team of volunteers in Brampton Centre helping us out with our campaign. We are trying to reach as many as 30,000 households, so that's a lot. We've reached maybe about up to 5,000 so far. So we do invite people who'd like to help us out with our campaign to come and visit us at 145 Clarence Street, Unit 17, you'll find our contact information on our campaign literature, and if you Google it online, Rosemary Keenan NDP for Brampton Centre. And thanks again, Parminder, for the opportunity here today.
Thanks a lot.